Good evening, everyone. My name is Hinisha Malone, and I am the Vice President of the West Garfield Park Youth Council. And we believe that we are the solution to the issues in our community. Our theme is Nothing With Us Without Us. The West Garfield Park Youth Council is sponsored by Fathers Who Care, which is a nonprofit organization located on the west side of Chicago within the West Garfield Park community. Again, everyone, my name is Hinisha Malone, and I'm the Vice President of the West Garfield Park Youth Council. The West Garfield Park Youth Council is comprised of young people from our community whose focus and concern is youth leadership and a voice within the community to reduce senseless violence and illegal substance use. We invite people from all over, especially young people, to come in and see what we are all about. Our show is scheduled every Thursday at 7 p.m. Again, that show is scheduled every Thursday at 7 p.m. Our show can also be viewed online at www.cantv.org/live. Again, that website is www.cantv.org/live. Well, everyone, I would love to introduce my guest for today. This is Dr. Trenton Fredrick, and he is a clinical psychologist. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Dr. Trenton Fredrick. I'm a clinical psychologist. I am currently the director of the Substance Abuse Division at Habilitative Systems Incorporated at 415 South Kilpatrick. I run both the outpatient program, the men's residential halfway house, and the women's recovery home. Well, where I have those people who report to me, supervisors who run those programs.
So thank you, Dr. Trenton Fredrick, for being a guest on tonight's show. Again, everyone, my name is Hinisha Malone, and I'm the Vice President of the West Garfield Park Youth Council. You are watching a live interactive call-in television program brought to you by CanTV 21. During the next 25 minutes, we are going to discuss educating young people in our community. We invite our viewers watching to engage via social media to better help us with ideas and thoughts on how we can better help our young people. So today's topic again is educating young people in our community. And now, Dr. Fredrick, I have a few questions for you. Tell our audience, who is Dr. Fredrick and what is your purpose for existing?
I found that extremely interesting. Who am I and what's my purpose for existing? That's a large thought process. Yeah. It's a large thought process. You almost want to say, well, God put me here, so here I am. But
exactly.
So I'm somebody who's been in the field of substance abuse and mental health since 1992, 32 years. 33 years this year. It's 2023.
Oh, yeah.
33 years. I started out working with adolescents on the west side at Bobby Wright. And you know, that's an interesting statement to say, what is my existence? Because when I first came to work in the field of mental health, it was not my plan to get a doctorate. I had a bachelor's in criminal justice, and my plan was to go to law school, but I hadn't gotten accepted right away. Right? And you can only apply once a year to law school, for those who don't know. And
why is that?
Because graduate schools often will only allow applying for once a year because of the gravity of the program. Also, you really don't want to start a graduate program in the middle. Rarely do you do that.
Right.
My doctoral program started that way, but even that, we ended up in what they call a cohort or a group that was that actually started in the fall. So normally, it's with graduate programs because of how they're designed.
So they're not designed like regular school, like starting the fall, end in the spring.
They
or summer?
are, but when I say that, how they're designed, like for example, one of the first things I did in my first year in my doctoral program was a kind of a therapy group, right? Where we were learning about different types of therapy, and the particular one that I was a part of was Tavistock, the Tavistock group. And that goes a full year.
Okay.
So you'd go from one semester to the next, and often that's the reason also. Classes will often go from one semester to the next. They are actually a year long. It happens both in law school and in other graduate programs, doctoral programs, and so forth.
So for anyone who doesn't know, what are your areas of expertise?
So my main area of expertise is addictions because that's what I started in. But I am a person-centered therapist. So I'm the person who started person-centered therapy is a man named Carl Rogers. So I'm what they call a Rogerian therapist. And I am actually a full expert in most mental health and substance abuse. I'm saying most, but definitely substance abuse. I've worked with, from a mental health perspective, I've worked with schizophrenics and people with depression and anxiety.
Yeah. I think that's a great job because I feel like when it comes to people with like schizophrenia and stuff, I feel like people kind of like, they turn away from jobs like that because they feel like, oh, it's too tough to try to get somebody to like come out of like, just come out of them being like who they are with having schizophrenia. Like they don't really want to deal with it. And for you to be like just working with them and helping them get through that, I think that's an amazing job. So why did you pursue a doctorate degree in clinical psychology?
Honestly, the reason I pursued a doctorate, like I said, when I originally started, because we were talking about that existence piece, when I originally started, I was planning on going to law school. And when I started doing this work and working with, first working with young people, I actually didn't like it. But I kept doing it and I felt, because I didn't feel like I was doing my best, and I don't like to be defeated.
Yeah.
I'm a person that I'm going to get there, right? So I stayed one more year. I said, I'll wait one more year before I apply again, to law school. And I started working with adults, and it just clicked. It all clicked. And so soon after, I got my first master's in substance abuse. I became a certified addictions counselor, and then after that, I started my doctorate in 2014, and I finished that in 2020.
It takes 6 years?
It takes 5 to 7.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's a whole generation.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically it actually takes more time for us to complete our doctoral, our classroom and student portion of our doctorate than it does a medical doctor.
Really?
So their classroom and student portion is 4 years. And then once they hit the 4th year, then they go into residency, and that's where they actually practice.
And they work inside the the hospitals?
Yeah, normally they work in hospitals.
Oh,
Yeah, they do their
nice.
residency in hospitals. And like we'll do our internship wherever, either a hospital or a clinic or something as clinical psychologists, because we deal more with the mind than the body. So.
Right. So why were you so committed in going to college for so long? And for those who don't know, how long were you in college?
So if you count all the years up, you got 4, 2, 6, and 7. What's that? 13,
Jesus.
right?
Right. 6 and 7,
if you
13.
count them all up, that's 13 years of school.
4 years, then 6 years, then 7 years?
Well, 4 years for my undergrad.
Right.
2 years for my first master's.
Right.
Then I went back and got my doctorate and a second master's, and that was 7 years.
Ooh.
So I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, a master's degree in health studies from Governor's State Addictions, a master's of clinical psychology from the Illinois School of Professional Psychology, and a doctorate from the Chicago School of Professional Psychology.
Oh. Was it worth it?
To me, yes.
That's good.
Do I wish I had done it all sooner? Yes.
Wait, when did you start?
So my undergrad, I started back in '89.
Okay.
Because I had taken time away from school and went to school. And I finished in '92. And then my graduate program I finished in '98. I did that from '96 to '98.
So what was the gap? Like, what you stopped?
Which gap?
From 92 to 96.
So the only reason there was a gap because I was still working and I hadn't decided if I really wanted to continue to do this.
Oh, yeah.
When I went back to get the master's in addictions, that was my commitment point, right?
Yeah.
As far as the doctorate, there was a certain amount of, to be honest, fear because you know, earlier before we got on the air, we were having a conversation about funds, and I said that education is an investment. And now that I better understand how important the investment is, I would never tell anybody to stop just because, oh, I got to take out loans. Take the loans out. Oh, I have to do this, because here's the thing: you can take out a loan for the first year, and if you are serious, you get your grades up, you can get scholarships for year 2, 3, and 4. And the same thing happens in doctoral programs. Most doctoral programs, mine I paid for, but most doctoral programs, you can go in and receive scholarships because often you're working under a doctor, and so you're receiving grant funds and so forth.
Oh, that's good.
So that's not true for all, but for many it is. You know, so, you know, it just becomes, it for me, there were like dual reasons, right? When when my dad would take me places, he would introduce me as Dr. Fredrick, and I wasn't Dr. Fredrick, and I would correct him constantly. But he knew I wanted to get my doctorate, and I kept hesitating. And when he passed in 2005, I had decided I was going to do it. I didn't actually make it in until 2014 because I was trying to decide, because there's a test and so forth you have to take to get into graduate school. Decide if I wanted
to get into the school?
To get into graduate school, there are tests and things you have to take. So I was like, oh my God, I got to take some more tests just to prepare. And just finally bit the bullet in 2013 when I applied, and then got in 2014.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. Okay, so wait. Wait. 7 years of that, right?
7 years of, so my doctorate was 5 to 7 years, and I'm gonna take you through it because I see the look on your face, right?
Okay, yeah.
So my first year was just all classroom.
Okay, right.
So we do all classroom the first year. So I took 4 classes each semester, which is actually a lot in graduate school.
Really?
Normally in graduate school, you take 2 classes, 3 classes. 4 is actually a lot. I had one of the young men that came in a cohort after mine. He actually took 6 classes because it is possible to finish in 4 years. It's very, very difficult, but it's possible. Okay. So the first year is just classroom time. You do classroom time. You do in the particular program I did, you do a certain type of therapy, so you get entrenched into it. Yeah. The second year is what's called is classroom plus an extern. So now you do both classes, and you have, yeah, we actually did. We had 25 to 27 hours a week where we were doing therapy. So we were at someone's, working for free at someone's organization, and my first year was actually what's called diagnostic, which is testing. Okay. So, and testing is psychological testing, right? So if I I can test you to kind of see schizophrenia, to check on if you're autistic, if it's depression, if it's some issue where there's a personality disorder, for example. So testing, actually only psychologists can do clinical testing. Right. Right. Now you'll see somebody with a master's doing testing, but a licensed psychologist has to sign off on it. Yeah. And so testing is where you look at a person's cognitive abilities and what they're able to do, but you also look at their personality and the different issues, so you can kind of diagnose what's happening with it. Right. So one of the things, for example, with testing is IQ. So we do what's called the WACE, right? The Wechsler aptitude, and I can't remember all the other letters right now, but we do what's called the WACE, and that's a test for IQ. The highest the WACE goes is 160. So a lot of times you'll hear people say, oh, I got an IQ of 2, so no, you don't. More than likely, what they're doing is adding two different tests together.
Okay, right.
Right. So they're probably adding, you know, the Wechsler, that particular test with an academic test.
So like mixing the different letters together.
Well, just
and
adding. So like Wechsler, the test goes up to 160. That's the highest score you can get.
Okay.
Your average IQ is 100. With a deviation of 15. So that when I say a deviation of 15, that means the average human being in the world, in America, wherever, their IQ is somewhere between 85 and 115.
Okay.
That would be considered, I hate using the term normal. That would be considered what a regular IQ is. Somebody that doesn't have a developmental disability, for example, or an IQ that's low. You know,
like their brain was like fully developed, like all the way through and stuff like that. So, like that, like how they say, like when you use substances or something, like it stunts your brain development. But like you don't do all that.
So there's so people have said that drugs and alcohol stunt your brain development. They don't really stunt the brain development. What they do is often more often than not is they affect different parts of the brain, causing different issues to occur or different things to occur, right? So you know, and it's the reason why when somebody has an addiction, we talk about drug of choice, right?
Yeah. Because
depending on which part of the brain it's affected. So if you think about like an opiate, like heroin is an opiate. You think about Lil Wayne drinking syrup, right? Those are opiates. That's an opiate
like
that's in
the
there.
Purple stuff?
Right, which is like a downer. And what it affects in the brain is it affects the pain centers.
Yeah.
Right? So if you have no pain, right?
Right.
Then it just gives you a lethargic feeling and it takes you into kind of a down, right? And if you're a person who enjoys that, then
to feel down,
the feeling,
like depressed.
yeah. Now, and that sounds like, oh my God, why would you want to do that? But how you have to think about that more is like this. Most of the time, it's what people have gone through in their lifetime.
Right.
Right? And those things have created traumatic issues, right? You look at, for example, black people, right? A lot of black people are depressed, right?
Very true.
But with depression shows itself in different ways. When we watch television and we see somebody with depression, we see some white guy or white woman or some person sitting in a corner cuddling and, oh, I can't go anywhere and I'm afraid.
Yeah.
That's one way that it can happen. But the other way that depression shows itself is in anger.
Yeah.
Right? Because for most black people, we don't have the choice to stop and get stuck in a corner. Because the bills have to get paid. Your mom has to make sure you eat.
Yep.
Life keeps moving. So you have to live with and live through that depression.
Yeah.
Right? And so what you end up seeing in that, in a diagnosis like that, a diagnosis of depression is somebody who at one point may be smiling. They may appear happy, everything, but they really aren't.
Right.
Right? A lot of stuff is occurring where they're going home and dealing with it or being upset about it.
Yeah.
So I've gone through so many things from talking about testing to everything else. But that's something that we may diagnose, depression. For example, I would get so one of the places that I did my intern, because we were also talking about everything I had to do in school. So the first year I do the extern, which is the diagnostic and testing. The second year I do a extern that's a year long and with about 25 hours a week. That's therapy. So I'm doing only therapy. And then when I do an internship, which is actually paid, you do that at the end of the doctorate. And I happened to do my internship in Tulsa, Oklahoma at Indian Healthcare, which was a place for Native Americans to come get to be served for mental health issues. Yeah. And one of the things that I would do, because I would do both testing and mental health there and counseling there. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that one of the issues that would often happen, or something that people that would often come in, and I apologize for that.
Okay.
People would often come in and say, "Oh, I think I have ADHD." Right? Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Oh, my doctor told me I may have ADHD, right? Their medical doctor, not a psychologist. So I would test them. Often what I would find is they didn't have adult ADHD. What they had was depression. But those signs were showing up, the signs that go with that. And I don't have my DSM-4, so I'm not going to run through a bunch of signs.
Right.
But they would have depression, and in identifying the depression, then they would have a better understanding of what they needed to do.
So people with depression, like, they tend to like do things to basically not feel like that, because
Right.
So like if they feeling depressed or something, like they try to like deflect from that feeling and do stuff like be like overly active and try to do things that would make it seem like
they may
have
do
ADHD.
things to either be overly active, or they may retreat in a different way. Right, they're
like
still doing
themselves.
everything, but they're just not dealing with people when they are, right?
Right.
Or they may move to drugs and alcohol. Because see, most of the time when a person uses drugs, the first time they use, especially when they start when they're young, is because they're curious. I want to know what that is.
Yeah.
I see him over there, and he look like he enjoys it. So I want to know what that is. So the first time they use, it's because they want to know what it is.
Yeah.
The second time they use is because they enjoyed how it felt. So that's why you'll get somebody who may try heroin and then be like, oh no, because they didn't enjoy it. But then they try cocaine, which is an upper, and they're like, oh, this is great, right? So the first time is, I'm curious. The second time, I like this. The third time is probably, I like this. By the fourth time or fifth time or somewhere in there, and I'm not going to say necessarily, I'm not going to keep giving time.
Right.
There's a point though where the person is like, wow, this helps me deal with stuff. I don't have to think about stuff if I'm in this state of mind.
Yeah.
So they'll start using that to self-medicate to deal with their depression.
Yeah.
Their depression issues. A lot of times they'll use cocaine because they feel like, oh, it's going to take me up. Right?
So what can we do to reverse an overdose?
Okay, so overdose depends. So so overdose is a situation where they've had too much of a drug. So for example, with opiates, one of the things that's happening now is, and there's actually a pharmacist that's talking about it here in Chicago, people are being trained to use Narcan, which is a naloxone drug that comes in a little squirt bottle of sorts, kind of if you think about Flonase, and like a Flonase bottle.
Oh yeah, like a
Like a Flonase bottle. And you can go actually get trained on how to use it. And literally just putting those drops into that person's nose will help reverse it, because what naltrexone does is it's a beta blocker, it's a blocker. So what it does is it blocks what the opioid is doing, right? So what it does is when the naltrexone goes in, it blocks that issue. If they're down there and they're going through it and they, you like see them
withdrawals and stuff?
Well, withdrawal is different from overdose.
Oh, okay.
Overdose is I've used too much and now I'm starting to die.
Oh.
Right?
Right.
But you can stop a person from fully overdosing to death, right? And now Narcan does that.
Okay.
For example, if it's alcohol, right, and they're overdosing, because you can overdose on alcohol. That's when they die of blood alcohol, because alcohol is a poison. So when you hear someone dying of blood alcohol poison, it's because they put too much in their body.
Why, like, isn't that like alcohol, to drink alcohol? Isn't that like to help wounds and stuff?
Yeah.
And people put that in drinks.
Yeah. So I mean, but any alcohol, you think about bourbon or beer or whatever, these are actually poisons. That's the reason why they give you the feeling they give you.
Right.
So the alcohol goes in, and what your body does is it's a poison that it's able to detox. So between your kidney and your liver and all of that good stuff, it detoxes it so that your body can, deal with it.
Yeah.
All right.
So how do you help someone that has depression?
Through therapy.
Yeah.
I'm part of the reason why I'm a person-centered therapist, and I know we don't have a whole lot of time, is because what I've learned, because I work mostly with black people and people of color, and what I've learned with black people and people of color is that part of what they need is to feel empowered in their process, right? Too often when they go to talk to people about what's happening with them, everybody wants to stop them or say, oh, you're okay, or it's okay. You know, we have a history of just surviving the worst. So there's an assumption that because we've survived the worst, we're not affected by it, when we really are. Right? So the person wants to get to therapy, whether it's therapy for substance abuse or mental health. Habilitative Systems, where I work, HSI 415 South Kilpatrick, we provide mental health and substance abuse services.
Is that
for
with
example.
beauty?
Yes.
Okay. I knew.
We provide substance abuse and mental health services there. So these are, so there are places you can go. And now the beauty of now is go on the internet and Google. And you'll find some place that can give you services, and depending on your financial situation, most places have what's called I'm having a little brain freeze.
Fart,
Yeah, so most places have it so that there's a payment that you can pay in certain ways based on your income. So if you have no income, it's very possible it'll be free, depending on where you go. You know, it's places like Metropolitan Family Life, our place, Habilitative System, Bobby Wright, Community Mental Health, places like that.
That's good. Okay, we don't have that
Yeah, we don't have that much time. I know it's more to do. So I'll if you want me to, I can come back another day.
Yeah, I would like that. Okay, so just before we end the show, I want to talk about the MySpace Drop-In Center that Father's Care has for ages 13 to 24, Monday through Friday, and it's a safe space for young people to have life skill workshops, go on field trips, play games, do homework, anything that you need help with at 4540 West Washington, and you can call them at 773-287-5821. Again, the number is 773-287-5821 from 3 to 6 p.m. If anyone would like to get in contact with you, how can they contact you?
I can be contacted at Habilitative Systems. Probably the easiest way is via email. And my email is tfedrick@habilitative.org, which is TFEDRICK at Habilitative, HABILITAVE.org.
So if you are just tuning in, our guest tonight on the show is Dr. Trenton Fredrick, and we are discussing educating young people in our community. We would like to thank our viewers for watching. For additional information about our youth council, please contact us at 773-287-5821 and ask for Miss Princess. Thank you, and tune in next week, same time, same station, for our guest, Dr. Tanya Sorrell of Rush Hospital. Happy holidays.
That's a good guess.
Yeah.
Dr. Sorrell's a great guest.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays.